Voices Chatter. These days I've really been enjoying therapy. I started my therapy journey like 3 years ago when my first big tech job had offered it as part of mental health support. Since I had a certain number of sessions covered in my insurance, I decided to try it out. When it was my first time, it was a little nerve-wracking because I don't know how to articulate why I'm seeking therapy. At the time, it's more of a resource that was available to me, and so I took advantage of it. But what I gained out of it was so much more. I'm fortunate to have these therapy sessions available to me as part of my company benefits because I know they're very expensive out of pocket. My first therapy session, I recall I was just talking very nervously and not knowing what to say really. But I just want to tell everyone out there who is considering therapy or who's been through therapy but not had a great experience to keep trying, because you'll know when you find the right fit. I've always considered myself a very resilient person. I have been through a lot in my life, but I've always been able to get back on my feet and lean on my support system, ask for help when I need, and get through the tough times on my own. So for me, it was a little arbitrary to really just continue my therapy sessions because I didn't know what I should be talking about. But I think putting trust in your therapist and just start broadly with, getting to know each other and talking about what are your general worries and concerns and just really treating it as a third-party outlet for you, right? Someone who is a complete stranger who doesn't know you or are related to you in any way or form, that you can just let it out confidentially. For me, apparently there was a lot to unpack. From my childhood to my teenage years, adolescent years, to adulthood, I've struggled with different things in different phases. And it was really nice for my therapy sessions to bring out that new side of me that I wouldn't have otherwise been thinking about if I hadn't been, sitting down and going through a session and talking about it. And I think a lot of times talking about your struggles and your vulnerability is really the first step of facing yourself. In the last session, I talk about a very vulnerable topic that has impacted pretty much my whole life. And the premise of it was I have this bad habit that I cannot quit. It was just a habit that formed since I was very little, and it's affected me throughout my whole life. And I really don't have a ton of recollection as to what happened that caused me to form this habit. At first, it was all about trying as many methods as possible and just seeing what clicked. And unfortunately, none of them clicked. So I was sort of in despair because I felt like all these sessions and efforts, and I still couldn't find a solution. But I am very proud of myself because I am the reason behind my breakthrough. I found a way to successfully stop me from practicing that habit for a period of 3 months. How that worked for me was each time it's happened, I would tally and document what I was feeling at the moment, what was the emotions leading up to what I was doing, and how did I feel after. And so it became sort of this repository of notes where the truth was extremely ugly, right? I repeatedly would tell myself I don't feel good after, and most of the times it's caused by I was nervous in the moment, I was overwhelmed by something, or it was because of work or had a presentation, whatever the case may be. And every time that I did that, I didn't feel good afterwards. And so looking at the tallies and looking at what I wrote down as my raw feelings at the time really hit me hard that I am not loving myself and that I feel very bad in the process of holding on to this bad habit. So, as I continued to face that day after day, I just got tired of doing all these tallies and sort of being in this loop of a very vicious cycle of not feeling good about it. I had to really concentrate and stop myself. And so I was able to do that for a few days, and again, looking at all the tallies and my notes that I documented really motivated me to stop. And it was after I stopped for a few days that competitive nature side of me kicked in. I was like, you know what? I have a good record. I need to keep up with it. And so I very proudly was able to stop this bad habit for 3 months. But then, life got too hectic again, and then the habit resumed. But I'm sharing this little side story because I just want to say that a lot of times in therapy, you might go into it with the hope of your therapist finding the solution for you. And, as long as you tell the therapist the truth of how you're feeling and your story, that you will be healed. But a lot of times, you need to put more faith in yourself. The therapist, most of the time, is letting you tell them the things that you already know about yourself, but it's just somewhere in your subconsciousness, and it's not necessarily in your everyday awareness. And so I think, the true value in therapy is being able to talk about yourself, being able to be aware of how you're feeling and how you should connect your behavior to how you're feeling. And at the end of the day, if you're a generally worry-free and happy person, therapy is great for, just providing a stranger for you to just talk to and rant to, and it really costs you nothing in terms of letting it out. But sometimes you do reap the benefits in unexpected ways. So, I'm a huge supporter of therapy, and I recommend it to all my friends and family, and I'm very vocal about the benefits that I'm getting from them. So, I hope to spread a good word and really go against that social stigma that often surrounds therapy. You don't have to have something wrong with you in order to seek out therapy. I think emotions showcase strength and not weakness. If you do need help, you are taking the steps you need to get yourself that help, and that is extremely brave. At the end of the day, though, you get out how much you put in. I have monthly sessions, but sometimes I feel like there's absolutely no progress. Like, I'm just talking to this person about my life, and then, before you know it, the next month comes and I talk about whatever worries I have in the moment, and sometimes it feels like, it's kind of a waste of time. But then I realize when I'm really ultra focused about what is it that I want to talk about with my therapist, what is it that's been on my mind and bothering me, and what are my current struggles, and just having that dedication deep inside to say, okay, in today's session, I want to achieve X, Y, and Z, or after this session, I hope to achieve X, Y, and Z. That really helps frame the conversation and really helps me be more motivated to think about the outcomes of each session and be more intentional about what I do with the learnings from each session. Fast forward to now, we continue to work on really the cause of my bad habit, and it really has to do with how I view myself. In a nutshell, I have low self-esteem, and having low self-esteem is not something that I'm completely unaware of. It's just something I've never talked about in depth, and I never really gave it a ton of thought, because I've always thought it's just how I am. It's part of my personality. It's there's no cause. It is what it is, right? And even though there's always been a part of me that wants to work on my self-esteem, I just never dedicated enough mind space and time to really sit down and think about this. So I was really grateful that in my therapy session, for the first time, it created a mind space for me to dwell on it. And for me, the low self-esteem is definitely a separate story on its own. But events in my childhood that continue through my adulthood really shape that part of me. When people look at me from the outside, they see, I graduated from a great college, I have a reputable, high-paying job, I am well loved by my friends and family, I have a stable, long-term relationship, and I seem to be the high performer in everyone's eyes. But none of them knows that for me, when I receive compliments, I don't actually feel like I live up to it. When people tell me great job, I just think, okay, I didn't mess it up. That's a relief. In my other video, I talked about passing the 4 sections of the CPA exam. Again, relief that I'm finally done with this stuff. I don't have to take any more exams. Was I super happy? Did I go have a celebration? Not at all. I don't really think of those things as achievement by my own definition. And I don't know why, that's just how I felt. There's very few things in life that I would consider an achievement, and always on paper, they don't mean much to me. I think I just never saw myself in a way I should. I should feel like I'm an amazing person. I should feel like I'm very loved and I'm very fortunate. I do appreciate the little things in life, and I am proud of who I am. And yet I don't exhibit a lot of self-love. I don't know if this phenomenon is normal in our society today, where you constantly see the highlights of people's lives, right? Like on social media, you see the glamorous parts, and then people shy away from talking about their struggles. I guess I'm a little afraid to face that part of me with low self-esteem. I find it, cringe-worthy when my therapist was telling me, you need to find ways to show more self-love. Look in the mirror today. Find one part of you that you like. And then my follow-up question was, what if I don't like anything I see? She was like, it doesn't have to be appearance. It can be something you feel. You like your silky hair that day. You like the way you smiled, or whatever the case may be, just what you feel good about. I was like, well, but I'm just not the type to wake up and look in the mirror and love something about myself. So it's going to be very hard for me to go through that. And she's like, well, that's why it's so important for you to force yourself to think about those things, to reframe what you're telling yourself, right? Instead of focusing on the bad and what you don't like, reframe that into one thing that's positive. And then these positives on a daily basis will then add up over time, where one day you look in the mirror and you'll love yourself and you'll love all of you. And I found that to be very empowering. And so that's what I'm doing these days. I'm trying to focus on the positives. I'm trying to become someone who is glass half full. Thankfully, I surround myself with great people. So, yeah, for any of you who is having a hard time mentally or physically, give yourself some self-love and some self-care, and prioritize what your body and mind needs in the moment. Everything else is secondary. And if you're ever just on the fence about therapy, but you have once considered it, or you have once gone through it, don't be shy to give it a second try. It might just work for you. And if it doesn't, so be it. I hope you're able to love yourself either way. I can't say that I will for sure be able to fix all my challenges in life and my emotional struggles and my bad habits, but at least I'm in a good place right now where I am motivated enough to try, and I think that's enough for me. Sadly, my bad habit came back, and I'm trying to work on it again, so wish me luck. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. See you next time. Bye.